was just an accident. But after the Foxy girl touched the human, nothing was ever the same. The night was quiet, almost too quiet. The kind of silence that presses against your ears and makes even small sounds feel sharp. The streets were empty, and the only light came from the dim glow of a few street lamps. A human man named Armand was walking home after a long day. He felt tired, his legs heavy, and his mind wandering between thoughts of work and the comfort of his small apartment. It had been an ordinary day, nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing strange, but sometimes life had a way of changing in an instant. And tonight would prove that. Armand walked along the edge of a small forest, a shortcut he often took to save time. The trees were thick, their branches swaying slightly in the night breeze. He liked the quiet of this route, the way the world seemed paused there, as if nothing could disturb it. But tonight, the forest felt different. The air carried a strange, almost electric tension, like something unseen was watching him. Armand shook his head, laughing softly at himself. "Just nerves," he whispered. "I've been walking here 1,000 times." He stepped over a small puddle from a recent rain and kept moving. Then, without warning, his foot slipped on a wet patch, and he stumbled. His heart jumped as he tried to catch himself, but the ground beneath him was slick. He fell forward, scraping his hand on the rough asphalt. Pain shot through his palm, and he grunted, sitting up quickly, brushing dirt and tiny stones from his clothes. That's when he saw her. She was crouched just a few feet away, hiding partially behind a tree. At first he thought she might be a child lost in the woods, but she was unlike anyone he had ever seen. Her hair was long and silver, almost glowing under the dim light. Most striking were her ears, pointed like a fox's, twitching as if listening to his every movement. Her eyes were wide and golden, reflecting the light like two tiny lanterns. She froze, staring at him, just as surprised as he was. Armand's heart pounded in his chest. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked carefully, trying not to scare her. His voice sounded louder than he expected in the still night. The girl's lips parted slightly, but she didn't answer. She just stared, her small hands gripping her knees tightly, her body trembling. Something in her expression told him that she was scared, not just of him, but of something else, something he couldn't see. Before he could move closer, she suddenly darted forward, or maybe towards him. Armand couldn't tell. In her panic, she stumbled and reached out instinctively. Her fingers brushed his arm, light but firm. A strange sensation passed through him, almost like electricity, but warmer, gentle, and alive. He blinked, startled. He had never felt anything like it. He wanted to speak, to ask her what she was, but no words came out. All he could do was stare at her. The girl's eyes widened even more. She backed away quickly, as if she had just realized what she had done. I didn't mean to," she whispered, her voice trembling. It was soft, almost musical, but filled with fear. Her words were barely audible over the pounding of Armand's heart. He wanted to reassure her, but he didn't know how. He didn't understand what had just happened. Armand rubbed his arm where she had touched him, feeling an unusual warmth spreading under his skin. It was not painful, but it was strange, like a current running through his veins. He looked at her again, trying to see if she was hurt or sick, but she seemed fine, just frightened. Her ears twitched nervously, and she glanced around as if expecting something terrible to appear from the darkness. I'm not going to hurt you," Armand said slowly. "I promise." She hesitated, her eyes searching his face for signs of lying. For a moment it seemed she wanted to run, but something kept her rooted to the spot. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the strange connection that had sparked when she touched him. Something neither of them understood. Her lips moved, forming words he could barely hear. "It's dangerous." Armand frowned. Dangerous here? He looked around at the empty street, the silent trees, and the shadows that stretched across the ground. "What do you mean?" The girl shook her head, her hair falling over her face. She looked small and fragile, but there was something in her gaze, something old, wise, and wild, that made Armand pause. I can't stay," she said, her voice barely a whisper. You don't understand." Before he could respond, she darted off into the forest. Her movements were fast, almost like she was gliding over the ground. Armand wanted to follow, to ask her questions, to understand, but he hesitated. He had no idea where she had gone, and the shadows of the trees seemed thicker and darker than before. Still, something about the way she moved, the way she had touched him, lingered in his mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just shifted, that something important had happened. Armand stood there for a long time, unsure of what to do. The silence returned, but it was heavier now, filled with the memory of her presence. He could still feel the warmth on his arm, faint but unmistakable. It was as if the world around him had subtly changed, though everything looked the same. He knew one thing: nothing would ever feel quite normal again. He walked home slowly, glancing back at the edge of the forest. The moonlight revealed empty shadows where she had been, but deep down he sensed she was still there, somewhere watching or maybe just hiding. Questions swirled in his mind. Who was she? Where had she come from? And most importantly, what had that touch done to him? By the time he reached his apartment, Armand was exhausted, but sleep would not come easily. He kept replaying the moment in his mind. The touch, her eyes, the fear, and the strange warmth. Something had shifted inside him. Something he could not explain and perhaps did not yet fully understand. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling a connection that was both thrilling and terrifying. Outside, the forest was quiet again. But the night held secrets that only those willing to notice could feel. And the fox girl, wherever she was, had left an imprint on his life that would never fade. It was just an accident. Yes, but the kind of accident that changes everything forever. Hours passed. Armand finally closed his eyes, but even in sleep, the memory of her golden eyes and the touch lingered. It was the start of something new, something he could not escape, and something that would soon bring them together again in ways neither of them could predict. The accident had ended, but its consequences were only beginning. The morning after the accident, Armand woke up feeling different. He wasn't sure how to explain it. At first, he thought it was just the shock of the night before, the fall and the scrape on his hand. But as he sat on the edge of his bed, he realized something else was happening. The world felt sharper, more alive. The sunlight streaming through his window seemed brighter, and the sound of birds outside was clearer than usual. Even more unsettling were his own senses. He could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, the distant footsteps of neighbors walking to work, and even the soft rustle of wind brushing against the trees outside. Normally, these things would fade into the background, but now they seemed important. As if his body had suddenly tuned into a level of awareness he had never had before, Armand rubbed his arm. Where the fox girl had touched him the night before, the warmth was still there, faint but undeniable, like a soft pulse beneath his skin. It was not painful, but it made the hairs on his arms stand on end. He tried to shake off the feeling, telling himself it was just imagination, but deep down he knew it was not. Something had changed inside him. Something real. As he got dressed and prepared for the day, strange memories surfaced. Vivid flashes of golden eyes, pointed ears, and a soft, trembling voice. He had tried to forget them last night, but they returned now with startling clarity. Armand couldn't explain why, but he felt a strange connection to the girl as if he had known her all his life. His heart ached with a mix of fear and curiosity. When he stepped outside, the city felt different too. The sounds of traffic were sharper, the colors more vivid, and even the smells of morning freshly baked bread from a nearby bakery, damp earth near the trees, were stronger than usual. Armand frowned. "This is not normal," he muttered. He walked to work, trying to act like nothing had changed, but every step reminded him of the fox girl and the touch that had set all this in motion. At the office, he struggled to concentrate. Every conversation, every sound, and every movement seemed amplified in his mind. He noticed the small details of people's expressions. The subtle tremor in a coworker's hand, the faint scent of coffee lingering on someone's desk. Normally, he would have ignored these things, but now they demanded his attention. It was exhausting, but also fascinating. By midday, Armand couldn't ignore it any longer. He stepped outside for a short walk, hoping the fresh air would calm his senses. He wandered through a small park near his office. the grass wet with morning dew. The flowers were brighter than he had ever noticed, the colors almost glowing. And then, out of nowhere, he heard a soft rustling behind the bushes. His heart skipped a beat. "Hello?" he called cautiously. The rustling stopped. A few seconds later, she appeared, the fox girl. Her silver hair shimmered in the sunlight, and her golden eyes blinked at him, wide with caution. She was smaller than he remembered, her movements delicate but alert. Like a wild animal ready to flee at any moment, Armand's breath caught. You again," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. She didn't answer at first. She just stared, her ears twitching nervously. Finally she whispered, You felt it, didn't you?" Armand frowned. "Felt what?" Her gaze dropped to the ground. The connection. The touch. "It changed you. It always changes humans when it happens." Her voice was soft but urgent. "You can't ignore it. It will grow, and if you don't understand it, it can overwhelm you." Armand swallowed hard. "Change me? I feel different. Yes. I don't know why, but everything. Everything feels sharper, alive, like I can sense more than before." The fox girl nodded, as if confirming something he could not yet understand. "Yes. That's why I couldn't stay close last night. I didn't want to scare you, but the moment our hands touched, it started. Now it's begun, and there's no going back." Armand felt a chill run down his spine. "No going back? What do you mean?" She hesitated, glancing nervously around the park. "In my world, humans and my kind, we're not meant to touch, not like this. Not in a way that binds us. But something in you, something about you allowed it. You're special, even if you don't understand it yet." Armand's mind spun. "Special me? I don't understand." "You will," she said quietly, almost to herself. "You have to learn fast. The changes will grow, and if you're not careful, they could take over your life. Not in a bad way, but in a way you're not ready for." Armand tried to absorb her words. The rational part of his mind wanted to laugh, to tell himself he was imagining this, that the world had simply gotten too quiet or too bright. But another part, something deep inside him, knew it was true. He felt it in his chest, in his arms, in his very bones. Something new had begun. Over the next few days, the changes became more obvious. Armand noticed he could hear conversations from far away, sense the mood of people around him, and even see small movements in the corner of his eyes that normally would go unnoticed. Sometimes, he would catch himself staring at someone, knowing how they were feeling without a single word being spoken. It was thrilling, but it was also frightening. He wanted to share it with someone, to ask if anyone else had ever experienced this, but who could he tell? No one would believe him. The truth was too strange, too impossible, and yet he couldn't deny it. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her at the fox girl. Her golden eyes, her delicate hand brushing his arm. The fear and urgency in her expression, he began searching for her, wandering the edges of the forest near his apartment, hoping to find answers. And sometimes, he did see her glimpses of silver hair between the trees. The flick of pointed ears as she watched him from a distance. She never stayed long, always disappearing before he could get close. But her presence was enough to remind him that the accident was only the beginning. One evening, exhausted from the day, Armand sat on a park bench, trying to calm himself. He felt the warmth of her touch still lingering, almost like a memory etched into his skin. And then, as if drawn by the same invisible force that had bound them together, she appeared again. This time she did not hide. She stood a few feet away, her golden eyes fixed on him, her posture cautious but open. "You feel it too, don't you?" she asked. Armand nodded slowly. "Yes. I don't understand it, but yes." She stepped a little closer, though still keeping her distance. "Good. That means you're aware. Most humans aren't. Most would ignore it or be frightened by it, and the change would overwhelm them. But you have a chance to control it, to understand it. That is rare." Armand's heart raced. Control it? Understand it? How? She looked down at her feet for a moment, then back at him. "I can help. But you have to trust me, and you have to be patient." The connection between us, it's not just physical, it's deeper. Emotional, mental, spiritual. It will change how you see the world, how you feel about everything. And it will not stop growing until you learn what it is. Armand swallowed hard. And if I fail? The fox girl's ears twitched nervously. Then it could overwhelm you. But I believe in you. That's why I came back. I can't ignore it, and neither can you. For the first time, Armand realized that his life would never be the same. The accident, the touch, the strange connection, it had all been the start of something he could not avoid. And the fox girl, as strange and otherworldly as she was, had become an unavoidable part of his life. He took a deep breath and nodded. Okay, I'll try. I want to understand. The fox girl's golden eyes softened slightly, and she gave a small nod. Good. We will take it one step at a time. But remember, it is not just about understanding. It is about accepting. Accepting that life has changed. That nothing will ever be the same, and that sometimes the things we fear the most are also the things we need the most. As the sun set and the city lights flickered on, Armand felt a strange mixture of fear, excitement, and hope. The world was sharper now, brighter and more alive, and at the edge of the forest, the fox girl watched him, knowing that the bond they shared had just begun, but that it would grow stronger with every passing day. The accident had ended, but the changes had only just begun. Days passed after Armand's first encounter with the fox girl, but the changes inside him only grew stronger. He could feel them in his thoughts, in the way his body reacted, and in the way he noticed the world around him. Colors seemed brighter, sounds sharper, even smells were stronger than before. At first, he tried to ignore it, thinking maybe he was imagining things. But every moment reminded him that something had shifted. Something beyond his understanding. He could still see her sometimes. At the edge of the forest or in the park, her silver hair glinting in the sunlight, her golden eyes watching him carefully. And every time he saw her, he felt the warmth from the night of the accident return. It was not just in his arm, it spread through him like a current connecting them. He knew he had to understand what was happening. Finally, he decided to speak to her again. He returned to the small park where he had first seen her clearly and sat on a bench, waiting. He did not have to wait long. She appeared as if she had been expecting him. Her ears twitched nervously, and she stayed a few feet away. Cautious as always, "You came," she said softly. "I needed to," Armand replied. "I can't ignore this anymore. I need to know. What's happening to me? To us?" The fox girl hesitated, her eyes flicking to the ground. "I was hoping you would understand on your own," she said. "But it's time you knew the truth. The changes, the connection. It is part of something much bigger than you realize." Armand's heart thumped. "Bigger? What do you mean?" She took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. "I come from a world that exists alongside yours. We live hidden, away from humans. Our kind. We have abilities that humans do not. We can sense emotions, hear things that are far away, feel energy that others cannot. Normally, our worlds do not mix. We stay apart. But that night, when you fell, when I touched your arm, I activated something inside both of us. A connection. It is not common. It is dangerous, if not understood." Armand stared at her, trying to process the words. A connection. Dangerous. What do you mean? The connection, she explained, is more than just a touch. It is a bond between our species and humans. It awakens feelings, senses, and abilities that are normally dormant. You have started to change because of it. Your mind, your body, even your emotions are affected, and it will only grow stronger unless you learn to control it. Armand ran a hand through his hair. Control it? How? I don't even know what it is yet. I just feel different. Everything is brighter, louder, more real. I can't stop noticing things, people's emotions, sounds, even small movements. Sometimes it overwhelms me. The fox girl nodded, her golden eyes full of concern. That is why I must help you. Most humans would panic or try to hide it. But you have a rare kind of balance. It is why the connection has not harmed you yet, but it will not wait. The changes will continue. You need to understand them, or they may consume you. Armand took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing thoughts. And what happens if I can't control it? She shook her head slightly. Then you would lose yourself to it. Not completely, but you would feel as though the world is too much to bear, and fear would take over. That is why it is important that we face it together. I can teach you, guide you, but you must trust me. Armand hesitated. Trust was not easy. He barely knew her, and yet something inside him wanted to believe her. Okay, he said finally. I trust you. But I don't even know where to start. The fox girl's ears twitched, and she gave a small, approving nod. Then we start slowly. First, you must understand your senses. You already notice more than before? Yes? Close your eyes and focus. Listen to the world around you, not just the sounds, but the energy of things. Feel the wind, the ground, the air. Everything has a presence, and you can feel it now because of the bond. Armand did as she instructed, closing his eyes. At first, it was overwhelming. Every sound, every subtle movement in the park seemed to come alive. He heard the rustle of leaves, the chirping of birds, distant cars, even the soft footsteps of someone jogging far away. It was dizzying, but as he focused, he began to feel patterns in the noise, a rhythm that made sense. He felt the warmth of the sun on his skin, the cool breeze brushing his hair. It's the energy of the earth beneath him. You're doing well, the fox girl said softly. Now, feel me. Armand opened his eyes slightly and saw her sitting on the grass, her golden eyes fixed on him. He focused on her presence, the warmth she radiated. It was strange, comforting, and frightening at the same time. He could feel her emotions, fear, concern, curiosity, and something else. Something gentle, almost like hope. You can sense me now, she explained. That is the connection. It links our feelings, our energy. You will learn to control it, to strengthen it. But it will take time. Armand nodded, trying to absorb everything. He had always thought the world was simple, predictable. But now he realized how much he had never noticed, how much had been hidden from him. And he also realized that the fox girl was no ordinary person. She was something extraordinary. Their lives were now tied together. For the next few hours, they practiced together. She guided him to focus on small things at first. The warmth of sunlight, the sound of leaves, the movement of animals. Slowly, he learned to tune out distractions and focus on what mattered. He began to feel the bond as a gentle hum in his chest, a reminder that he was no longer alone in experiencing the world. But it was not all easy. There were moments when the sensations overwhelmed him. He would hear too much, feel too much, and panic would rise. The fox girl would place her hand on his arm, grounding him, reminding him to breathe. And with each moment of guidance, Armand felt stronger, more aware, more alive. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they sat together in silence. The fox girl's eyes reflected the colors of the sky, and Armand realized that he was no longer afraid. The changes inside him were still strange, still frightening, but they were no longer a threat. They were a challenge, a path to understanding something far bigger than himself. You have done well today, the fox girl said quietly. Not everyone can handle the connection this soon, but you have the strength, the balance, and the heart to learn. That is rare. Armand smiled faintly. I want to understand it. I want to control it. I want to know what it really is and why it happened to me. She nodded, her ears twitching slightly. That is the right attitude. The connection is not just about abilities or senses. It is about understanding yourself, understanding others, and learning to accept what cannot be undone. That touch, that moment of accident, it changed everything. And now, nothing will ever be the same. Armand looked at her, realizing how much truth was in her words. His life, his perception, and even his emotions were shifting. He was no longer the same man who had walked home that night. He had crossed into a world of wonder, mystery, and danger, and he could not turn back. As darkness fell, they left the park together. Not too close, but not too far. Their bond was growing, subtle yet undeniable. Armand could feel her presence in a new way, not just with his eyes or ears, but with his heart. And though he did not fully understand what lay ahead, he knew one thing: he was ready to face it. With her by his side, the accident had sparked the connection. The connection had awakened the changes, and the changes were only beginning. Days passed since Armand had begun learning about the connection. At first, the changes inside him were exciting. He could sense things he never noticed before, feel the energy of the world, and even understand people's emotions in ways that were startling but fascinating. But soon he realized that the bond with the Fox girl came with consequences he had not expected. It started with small things. At work, he could hear conversations that were not meant for him. He sensed tension between coworkers that they tried to hide. Sometimes he would feel someone's fear or sadness, as if it were his own, leaving him exhausted by the end of the day. The more he tried to ignore it, the stronger it became. Even when he closed his eyes at night, the feelings stayed with him. The Fox girl noticed the changes too. She had been careful to teach him to control his senses, to focus his mind, but she knew it was only the beginning. One evening, she appeared at the park where they usually met. Her expression serious. "You need to be careful," she said quietly, her golden eyes scanning the shadows. "The changes are growing faster than I expected. You are sensing too much, too quickly, and it could overwhelm you." Armand nodded, rubbing his temples. "I know. It's exhausting sometimes. I try to control it, but it doesn't stop. Even at work, I can't ignore what I feel. It's like I'm carrying other people's emotions inside me." "That is the danger," she said. "The connection is not just about senses. It links us in ways humans cannot fully understand. It can affect your mind, your heart, even your actions. That is why I cannot let you face it alone. You need guidance, focus, and patience. And even then, there are consequences." Armand frowned. "Consequences? What kind of consequences?" She hesitated, looking at the darkening trees around them. Some humans, if the connection grows too strong, can lose balance. They can become anxious, frightened, or even withdrawn from the world. Others may be tempted to misuse it, to manipulate or control. In my kind, those who see the connection sometimes view it as a violation. They may come looking for me, or for you, to undo it. It is dangerous on many levels. Armand's heart skipped a beat. They might come after us?" The Fox girl nodded. "Yes. Not because they want to hurt you, but because they follow rules. The bond we share is unusual, rare. They see it as forbidden. And if they find out, it will not be simple to explain." The thought made Armand uneasy. He had already noticed people looking at him strangely, sensing his change in ways he could not explain. If anyone discovered what was happening, it could ruin his life, or worse. And yet, he also felt a strange responsibility. The bond with the Fox girl had opened a new world for him he could not turn back. Over the next few days, Armand tried to balance his life. He focused at work, tried to ignore the sensations, and attempted to maintain a normal routine. But the connection grew stronger with every moment he spent near the Fox girl. When they met, he felt a pull, like gravity, drawing them closer. Even small touches, her hand brushing his sleeve. A glance, a shared smile, amplified the bond, sending warmth and energy through him in ways that were almost overwhelming. One evening, they met again at the forest edge. The Fox girl seemed tense, her ears twitching constantly. Armand noticed she was not her usual calm self. "There's someone," she whispered. "Someone from my world. They know. They are searching. You must be careful." Armand's pulse quickened. "Searching for us? What do they want?" "They want to separate the bond, to undo it, but that is not simple. Once a human is connected, it is almost impossible to sever. They may try to force it, to take me away, or to warn humans not to form connections. That is why we must be careful. We cannot be seen together too often. Armand nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. Then what do? We stay alert, she said. We practice control. And we trust each other. The bond is strong, and that is our advantage. If we remain calm, patient, and focused, we can handle this. But one mistake, one lapse in control, could reveal everything. The tension was palpable. For the first time, Armand realized the connection was not just an unusual experience, it was a responsibility. The changes in him, exciting as they were, had consequences not only for him, but for the Fox girl and the world she belonged to. The next day at work, Armand felt the bond differently. He noticed colleagues' thoughts and emotions more strongly, and it was exhausting. One coworker, normally cheerful, seemed tense and anxious. Another, usually quiet, radiated sadness. He could sense the shifts in the office's energy, like a tide rising and falling. It was beautiful in a strange way, but also overwhelming. He struggled to focus, to keep his own thoughts separate from the feelings he absorbed. By evening, he met the Fox girl again, and they practiced control exercises. She guided him to focus on breathing, on separating his emotions from those he sensed around him. Slowly, he began to find a rhythm. He could sense her presence without being overwhelmed by it. He could focus on his own thoughts without losing awareness of the world. But just as they were making progress, a shadow moved at the edge of the forest. Both froze. Armand's heart pounded. He could feel the tension in the air, the subtle shift in energy. Someone or something was approaching. The Fox girl's ears twitched, and her body tensed. "They are here," she whispered. "We must hide." They moved silently into the trees, using the shadows to remain unseen. Armand felt the rush of fear and adrenaline, but also the bond pulling him closer to her. They were stronger together, and he realized that the connection was more than senses. It was protection, trust, and understanding from their hiding spot. Armand could see a figure moving between the trees, looking for them. It was unlike any human. Tall, silent, and alert, with eyes that seemed to pierce the darkness. Armand felt his chest tighten. The Fox girl's grip on his arm was gentle but firm. "They want to stop us," she said softly. "But we are prepared. We have the bond. And they cannot sever it not easily." Armand nodded, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. He realized that the connection, which had started as an accident, was now central to their survival. It was no longer just about changes in him, it was about facing challenges together, trusting each other, and understanding the true power of the bond. For hours, they remained in the shadows, watching as the figure searched. Armand could feel the Fox girl's tension, but also her trust in him. Slowly, he learned to feel not just the bond's strength, but its guidance. He knew when to move, when to stay, and how to use the energy between them to remain hidden. Finally, the figure left, retreating into the forest with silent, deliberate steps. Armand exhaled, relief washing over him. The Fox girl relaxed slightly, her ears flattening against her head. "We are safe. For now," she said. "But you see now, don't you? The consequences of the bond extend beyond us. It affects the world around us, and there are those who will not accept it." Armand nodded. "I understand. And I want to face it, all of it. I don't want to ignore this anymore. I want to learn, control it, and protect us." The Fox girl's golden eyes softened, a small smile forming on her lips. "That is good. You are learning faster than I expected. The bond has chosen you, and you are choosing it back. That is rare, and it is why I have hope." As night fell, they left the forest edge and returned to the park, careful to avoid prying eyes. Armand felt exhausted but alive. The connection was stronger than ever, the consequences real, and the responsibility heavy. But he also felt something else: trust, courage, and the knowledge that he was not alone. The accident had started it. The connection had grown. And now, the consequences were no longer abstract. They were part of their reality. Part of the bond they shared, and part of the journey that had only just begun. They would face challenges, fear, and those who did not understand them. But together, With the bond guiding them, they would survive, adapt, and learn the true power of the connection. And as Armand watched the fox girl disappear into the shadows at the edge of the park that night, he realized that nothing at all would ever be the same again. Days turned into weeks, and Armand began to accept the changes inside him. At first, the new senses, emotions, and awareness had been overwhelming, even frightening. But with the fox girl's guidance, he learned to control them. He could focus on his own thoughts, feel the world without being consumed by it, and sense her presence even when she was far away. The bond was no longer a mystery. It was a part of his life, and slowly he began to understand its beauty. The fox girl remained cautious, but she also grew more comfortable around him. She trusted him, and he trusted her. Their connection had started as an accident, a brief touch in a quiet forest. But now it had become a bridge between their worlds. The warmth he had felt that night was no longer just a memory, it was a constant presence. A reminder that they were linked in ways that went deeper than words. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky with shades of orange and pink, Armand met her at the park. There was a calmness in the air, different from the tension and fear of the past weeks. He noticed the way her ears twitched gently, relaxed, and how her golden eyes softened when they met his. "You seem different tonight," she said softly, her voice carrying a hint of amusement. "I feel different," Armand replied, smiling faintly. "I'm learning. I think I understand more now. The connection, it's part of me, and I think I'm okay with it." She tilted her head, studying him carefully. "That is good. It is not easy for humans to accept this bond. Most would resist, fight it, or run. But you have embraced it. That is rare, and it gives me hope." They walked together along the edge of the park, the city lights beginning to glow around them. Armand could feel her emotions as clearly as his own, calm, gentle, cautious, but also a quiet happiness. He realized that he could respond to her feelings in ways he could not explain. Comfort her when she was tense, or sense when she needed reassurance. The bond was no longer something to fear, it was something to nurture. Over time, they learned to balance their worlds. Armand returned to his daily life, but he carried the connection with him always. He could sense emotions in subtle ways, notice patterns in people's behavior, and even anticipate small events before they happened. But he also learned to focus on his own life, not letting the bond overwhelm him. The fox girl remained a constant presence, sometimes hidden in the shadows, sometimes beside him openly, though always careful. They developed a silent understanding, a rhythm of communication through gestures, glances, and feelings. Words were not always necessary. The connection itself spoke volumes. One night, as they sat together near the forest edge, the fox girl spoke softly. "Armand, do you understand now why the bond happened? Why it was triggered?" He nodded. "Yes, it was an accident. But I think it was meant to happen. I don't know why, but it feels like something in both of us needed this connection. And now, I can't imagine life without it." She smiled faintly, ears twitching slightly. "That is the truth. The bond is not just about abilities or awareness. It is about trust, understanding, and care. It links us, but it also teaches us. You have grown because of it, and so have I." Armand felt a warmth spread through him, not just from the connection, but from something deeper: friendship, companionship, and a quiet love that had developed over time. It was subtle, not overwhelming, but undeniable. He looked at her golden eyes, silver hair glowing in the moonlight, and realized that she was no longer just a mysterious figure from the forest. She was part of his life, part of his world. He would protect that bond no matter what. The fox girl's expression softened further. "Armand, nothing will ever be the same, but that is not a bad thing. The bond is part of our lives now. It has changed us, shaped us, and made us stronger. And though there will be challenges, we will face them together." Armand nodded, feeling the truth in her words. He thought of the dangers they had faced, the fear of discovery, the overwhelming sensations, and how he had learned to manage them. He thought of the trust he had developed in her, and how she had learned to trust him in return. The bond was no longer just an accident. It was a choice, a shared experience that had transformed them both. In the following days, they continued to grow closer. Armand became more confident in his abilities, able to sense the world around him without being overwhelmed. He noticed subtle changes in his relationships with people. He could comfort friends intuitively, understand emotions without them being spoken, and act in ways that felt natural. Guided by the bond, the fox girl also changed. She became less fearful, more open, and more willing to be part of the human world in small ways. She still kept her distance when needed, but she no longer hid entirely. Armand's presence grounded her, just as hers guided him. Together, they balanced the bond, using it to understand each other and the world around them. One evening, as they sat under a tree watching the stars, Armand spoke softly. "I used to think accidents were mistakes, something to be avoided, but this wasn't a mistake. It was the beginning of something important, something that changed my life for the better." The fox girl looked at him, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "Yes, and it changed mine as well. I was afraid, uncertain. But now I see that the bond brought us together for a reason, and together we can face whatever comes next." They sat in silence for a long time, feeling the warmth of the connection, the comfort of each other's presence, and the quiet peace of knowing that, despite the challenges, they had each other. The city around them was alive, full of noise and movement. But here, in this moment, everything was still. Armand reached out, gently taking her hand. It was not the first time they had touched, but now it felt different, steady, calm, and full of understanding. The warmth spread through him, not overwhelming but comforting. She gave his hand a small squeeze, and he could feel her trust, her acceptance. And the bond strengthened with a quiet certainty. "We have come a long way," he said softly. "From that night, from the accident, to this moment, I don't know what the future holds, but I know we can face it together." She nodded, a small smile forming on her lips. "Yes, nothing will ever be the same, but that is not bad. Life is meant to change, to grow, and sometimes accidents lead to the most important connections." Armand smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. He had learned to accept the changes, embrace the connection, and trust the fox girl completely. The bond that had begun as an accident had grown into something strong, guiding, and beautiful. And as they sat together, watching the stars, they knew that their lives had changed forever, not because of fear, not because of danger, but because of a single touch. A single moment that had opened the door to something extraordinary. The connection was no longer just a mystery. It was a part of them, a part of their lives, and a reminder that sometimes the things we cannot control are the very things that shape us into who we are meant to become. The accident had ended, but the journey had just begun. Together, Armand and the fox girl embraced the bond, the changes, and the future, knowing that nothing would ever be the same. That was exactly how it was meant to be.